So recently, the results to the big Crunchyroll Anime Awards just dropped, and a lot of folks seem to be pretty upset by it. Firstly, I'll preface by saying that I think it's a fun little idea to host an awards show for anime, since the last time anime had an awards outside of Japan to my memory was the American Anime Awards, and the less said about that, the better. I am looking at you, Akira, in Best Comedy. Now, the nominees for this Crunchyroll Awards weren't necessarily the best, and there were definitely some odd choices. But hey, they allowed you to write in a vote, so if people truly felt that their tastes weren't being represented, they had other options. And I'm sure if the other section beat out the nominees, and it was for a serious choice, then they would have represented that opinion. One could argue that by omitting specific nominees, people will feel like they have to vote for one of the choices available, and I think that's a pretty fair argument to make. But ultimately, the element of choice outside of what's nominated is still there, even if it isn't in a massive way. Now, maybe they should have had a bit more variety, but many of the nominees did reflect public conscience and what a lot of folks would vote for, so while it was flawed, I wouldn't say that the nominees were, as a whole, terrible. They had the most popular shows of every season. A majority of folks watching seasonal anime have seen Re:Zero, have seen Erased, have seen Yuri on Ice, have seen Hero Academia, and while something like Rakugo may not be an extremely popular show, a fair share of folks still watched it, and the reception from those that did watch it was overwhelmingly positive. Like I said, there are some outliers and some strange choices, however, I think that rings true for most award shows. But allow me to get down to the bottom line of my thoughts on the Anime Awards. I don't really have a problem with the results, which may come off as a bit controversial, but hear me out. This is just a fun, silly little awards show. It's not claiming to be this big shot thing, and yes, quote-unquote experts may have picked the nominees, but they didn't pick the winners. People are reacting as if this is the Academy Awards, when in reality, this is really just the Kids' Choice Awards, if anything. The people decide what they think is the best, and everyone has their own voice. The most popular things that are the most liked and the most ingrained within the minds of the public will win. So when Yuri on Ice dominates, of course it would, because while as a whole that may have not been the most popular anime of 2016, it is the most popular show of autumn. Therefore, it's stuck in the minds of a lot of people the most because it's the most recent popular show. It's the same deal when you look at the Anime News Network polls for the end of the year. You look at the winner of those for the last 3 years, and they were Parasite, One Punch Man, and Yuri respectively, all of which are fall shows, because they are the most recent hype titles that everyone's watching. So a lot of folks are gonna vote for it because they are still hot on these shows and like them the most at that moment. Maybe the results aren't the most interesting, but they are ultimately the people's choices. It's also very telling that this is the people's choice because you have people who work for Crunchyroll who aren't satisfied with the results. You have @SailorB tweeting about how she believes Mob Psycho was robbed for Best Animation. Or you have Miles teaming up with Arcada to discuss the nominees and what he agrees with and what he disagrees with. It shows that ultimately, while the folks at Crunchyroll may have their own opinions, the results are reflective of those that voted. Now, I'm aware that it may not be up to them, but it's still nice to see their own perspectives and how they contrast with these final results. Now, allow me to further elaborate by saying that I myself don't personally agree with the results, but my tastes are pretty far off from consensus in general. I didn't go in with the expectations that my favorite anime from last year would be nominated or anything like that. I just expected a fun, silly little awards show, and I got what I came for. The people decided, and if they feel that Yuri on Ice was the best in those respective categories, then well, good on them. Their vote counts just as much as my own, and they have a right to vote for what they want to vote for. This award show isn't implying that the people voting are some quote-unquote anime gurus who have watched every show from last year, or even just every single one that was decently talked about. Unlike something like the Oscars, which does kinda claim that. It's just normal, everyday people. And so, once again, while I don't agree with the results, they are what they are, and I don't get a sense anyone is trying to use these results to prove that their show is the best. They're just the results. Ultimately, I do believe that the Crunchyroll Anime Awards might need some fine-tuning. For example, I think that there weren't enough categories, it was kinda small, and some nominees were a bit questionable. But that being said, I had fun with it, and I would like to see Crunchyroll do this again sometime next year. Folks are free to be upset with the results, of course, and let your voices be heard so that if these awards are to return next year, the kind people who run these awards can adjust accordingly and make improvements where necessary. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, feel free to give it a like, as well as subscribe if you'd like to see similar content in the future. Discord links in the description if you'd like to chat with me, and as always, I'll catch you later.